Hi everyone, Drini here, and welcome to my channel. So we're going to take a look at Splinterlands today and the SPS token, because for those of you who are unaware, Splinterlands pretty much just released a roadmap for Splinterlands to have a node system very similar to Gala games. So we're going to take a look at the current price action of SPS. I'll also dive into an explanation on how nodes work, what they're for, and eventually we will speculate on the potential impact on the price of SPS moving forward. And let's dive in. So with nothing much happening in Bitcoin lately, things are very, very boring, except for Splinterlands, where Splinterlands from 1 week back, it fell all the way down to 8 cents. It has since gone on a 70% tear to the upside. So when you look at the price action of SPS on a daily time frame, you may be thinking to yourself, sure, the nodes announcement was announced here, and if you look at the candles, sure, we went up by 70%. But we are still very far off from the all-time high of around $1 plus. Did the announcement of the nodes and a governance system actually impact SPS significantly? The answer is yes. That is because when you overlay the EMA structure that we constantly adhere to, ever since October of 2021, we have not gone above the EMA structure with a sustained candle holding it up. So we spent a long time under this EMA structure for 174 days. So that is 6 months of a continued SPS bear market since we reached this all-time high right here. So while we were in a huge amount of pain for almost 6 months, there is a silver lining on this particular bear market. This allowed a lot of opportunities to accumulate the token while it was still preparing the node infrastructure. One of the other good things about this particular price action is, if you notice, the 21 EMA and the 55 EMA are very far apart. So with this current downtrend right here, it allowed the 55 EMA and the 21 EMA to come closer and closer together, making it very easy to break upon confirmation of good news such as the node infrastructure. Another thing to note here is if we continue to hold this particular structure where we don't go back down below the EMAs, eventually what's going to happen is we are finally going to get a golden cross for SPS. This will be the very first time that we will experience a golden cross on a daily time frame. So let's see how it goes. The key thing to note about SPS is Bitcoin really has to behave. If it goes back on a downtrend, or if it goes below the channel that we have identified just now, then of course it doesn't matter which altcoins are out there and how much improved the node infrastructure impact will be. It doesn't matter. SPS will continue to go on a downtrend similar to the rest of the altcoin space. Moving forward, now that we have confirmed that we have high probability of going back on an uptrend, where could we potentially go? So over a macro level, and I'm talking about a long period of time here, when we overlay the Fibonacci, where this is the all-time high right here, where this is the 1, and the all-time low of 8 cents as the 0, the 1618 extension is around $5.43. So this is our long-term macro target, assuming of course that the crypto markets continue its bull run and SPS continues to have high adoption, etc., etc. Another thing to note is we will not reach these targets until the airdrops end. The SPS airdrops have to end, so the massive inflation for the SPS token will eventually stop, making the token quite scarce because a lot of people will now be holding it in preparation for Rift Watchers, etc., etc. Honestly, the reason why I haven't really looked at SPS, because prior to the node announcement, I was waiting for the airdrops to end, which is around August-ish, before analyzing SPS again. But given that we have already blasted past the EMA structure right here, as long as we behave, then we will continue our slow march to this particular level right here. So when I check the Discord groups after the node announcement, a lot of you seem to be quite confused as to what the node system is. And while there are a number of detailed videos already out there, you can just search for them. Let me just give you a brief overview so that you can have everything in this particular video. The current price action and our projections, the node system, and what are the potential impact on long-term price action moving forward. So the node infrastructure that Splinterlands wants to execute will be very similar to Gala Games' one. So let's clarify a few things about node ownership in the first place, or being a validator. So the way you have to think about the validator and the node infrastructure in Splinterlands is the key benefits to this are, 1, think of it very similar to the Bitcoin mining network. After the airdrops are over, the only way to get SPS is via the ranked rewards, but they will not be in similar amounts as being a validator and a node operator for the particular game. So there is a mining benefit. The second major component as to why this is very good news for Splinterlands, all validators and all license holders have voting rights not only to where the foundation funds are going to be allocated, but also be able to reject certain decisions by the Splinterlands game developers. So think of the node network or the validator community in SPS as sort of the representatives in Congress, where you no longer have a centralized decision-making component. In the future, when this is activated, any significant changes to the Splinterlands ecosystem will have to be voted on by the validators. And each validator has a different voting power depending on how many people stake their SPS with that particular validator network. It is very similar to how the Binance Smart Chain does it. In the Binance Smart Chain, there are 21 validators right here. So what each validator would do is it would try to get as many people to stake their SPS for their particular validator network, thereby increasing the voting power that they have for decisions with respect to the Splinterlands game. So you have a monetary reward for running the game. You also have a governance aspect to it. And by having voting rights within a decentralized autonomous organization, you now have ownership of Splinterlands itself. So these are the two main benefits as to why this particular system works, because it really allows all participants to have say on the future direction of the game. So you may be wondering, once we adopt that particular system where you have validators and nodes and licenses and voting rights, what could the potential price movements of SPS be? So this is where we take a look at some of the examples of games that operate under the same infrastructure just to see how they operate. One of the best examples of what could potentially be the price action behavior of Splinterlands moving forward is by looking at Gala games. When you look at the previous moons of Gala games, what you notice is after a very long consolidation period, it suddenly skyrockets in value before the subsequent sideways movement again, before it skyrockets again in value, and you repeat it vice versa. When you look at Gala's price history right here, you'd notice that ever since its launch back in 2020, it has always operated under that notion where you have sudden outbursts of price before subsequent sideways action, before subsequent movements in price again, sideways action, burst, sideways, etc. And if you're probably wondering why Gala behaves this way, this is because of the node infrastructure. The node operators are under no obligation to sell the Gala that they own. So that could be a potential play for the future validators and nodes of Splinterlands, where the SPS tokens that these node operators would continually get from supporting the network, they will continue to hoard it until you meet a particular moment where demand really outstrips the current supply and you get violent bursts to the upside, very similar to what's happening here. And once you get the ball rolling with the initial price burst, everyone would pile in, FOMOing in right here before reaching a subsequent blow off top, and then you have a long sideways consolidation. For a node operator, you can imagine what's happening here is node and validators would continually hoard SPS until it reaches a critical mass, wait for the subsequent peak right here, wait for the violent burst. This sideways consolidation is because all of the node operators and all of the validators are slowly selling off SPS, and the rest of the market will follow, of course, building the negative or the sideways momentum before the next supply crunch, which sends the token skyrocketing once again. That is the potential future of SPS moving forward. So we will take a while to get there, of course. Our $5 plus targets for SPS would honestly, realistically, only come after the node system has been implemented. So hopefully that comes sooner or later without any delays, so we can finally get the ball rolling with an SPS price movement to the upside.